The year is 1783. Representatives from both the United States and Great Britain meet in Paris to sign a treaty which will officially end the American Revolution. The Americans had fought for 7 long, hard years to win their independence from Great Britain. Many did not believe the Americans could win this war. The American army consisted mainly of men who were farmers and had little or no military training. Not to mention the American army lacked food, supplies, and money for its soldiers. Compare that with Great Britain, who had an army of 50,000 professional soldiers, endless amounts of supplies, and Great Britain was considered to be the top military force in the world at that time. How were a ragtag group of American colonists supposed to overcome the military force that was Great Britain? George Washington knew that his army could not defeat Great Britain's army on the battlefield. His army was small, untrained, unequipped, and underfed. He had to come up with another plan to defeat the British, and he did. His plan was brilliant and devious. What was his plan? He was going to use spies to win the American Revolution. Washington set up an extensive network of spies throughout the colonies. The most famous of these spy rings was the Culper spy ring. The Culper spies were extremely secretive, and only Washington and his top advisors knew their true identities. The Culper spies were so secretive that historians did not even know the Culper ring had existed until the 1930s. Since spies during the Revolutionary War didn't have phones or email to communicate with each other, they had to use other creative and inventive ways of sending secret messages to one another. One way in which they did this was to write secret messages to each other in ciphers or codes. In order to read the cipher, one must have the key in order to decode the message. Spies would take their messages and hide them in secret pockets of their coats, boots, and buttons. There is even a story of a message being hidden in a musket ball. Writing messages was the best way for spies to communicate with each other. The spies didn't want to risk being caught with a message, so they used different kinds of invisible ink to write their messages. They used simple things like lemon juice, where the message would appear after heat was applied to the paper, to a more complex system using chemical solutions for their invisible ink. The spies would write their messages with invisible ink on blank pages of paper, in between the lines and margins of books and newspapers, or in between the lines of personal letters being sent to friends or a loved one. Spies also used masks in order to write their messages. They would take the mask, lay it on top of a piece of paper, and then write their message. After the message was written, they would remove the mask and then fill in the blank spaces of the page, making it look like a personal letter. When someone wanted to read a secret message, all they had to do was place an identical mask over the letter, and the secret message would be revealed. And sometimes, spies would write fake letters about future military plans and then let their enemy find the messages on purpose. This is called false information, and Washington used this trick on numerous occasions to trick the British. Without the work of the American spies in the Revolutionary War, our country's history might be drastically different. Many credit the spies for the reason why the United States won the war. One such person was the man who was in charge of the British spies, Major George Beckwith. He said, "Washington did not really outfight the British, he simply outspied us." Without the efforts of the Culper spy ring and many other spies, the independent United States of America would have been just a dream and not the reality that it is today.